Jack let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. The foal was alive. And then he heard it, a sound so soft, so unbelievable that it made his entire body freeze. The mare whinnied weakly, barely above a whisper, but unmistakably. She nuzzled her foal. She was still alive, and somehow, against all odds, so was her baby. The wind howled through the valley, carrying the fresh scent of wet earth and distant rain. Jack exhaled deeply, his hands still trembling as he stared at the tiny foal lying in the mud. It was alive, barely, but alive. And the more she was watching him, not with fear, not with panic, but with something else. Something Jack had never seen in a wild Mustang's eyes before. Trust. Jack had spent his entire life around horses. He had seen feral stallions fight to the death. He had seen mothers protect their young with every ounce of strength they had left. But never, not once, had he seen a wild Mustang stay this still with a human beside her moments after giving birth. She should have run. A wild Mustang mare lay struggling in the mud, her breathing ragged, her body trembling with exhaustion. She was in labor, but something was wrong. The foal wasn't coming. Most people would have walked away, but one man didn't. Jack Reynolds, a 56-year-old rancher, knew that time was running out. The storm was closing in. The mare's strength was fading, and if something didn't change right now, she and the foal wouldn't survive. Jack had helped hundreds of horses in his lifetime, but nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. Just minutes after the birth, this wild Mustang did something that left him completely speechless. The wind howled through the valley, bending the dry grass and carrying the scent of rain and distant thunder. Jack Reynolds tightened his coat, his boots sinking slightly into the damp earth as he scanned the pasture. Something was wrong. He had been checking the fences along the outer edge of his ranch when he heard a low, agonized whinny, not just any whinny, but a desperate call. Jack froze. He knew that sound, a horse in trouble. He followed the noise, stepping carefully. Over uneven ground, the sun was setting fast, casting long shadows across the land. Then he saw her. A wild Mustang mare lay half on her side, her body slick with sweat, her breath shallow. Jack's stomach tightened. She was in labor, and she was losing the fight. Jack took a slow step forward. The mare flinched, her nostrils flaring, her muscles tensing despite her exhaustion. She was wild, untamed, and terrified, and yet she hadn't run. Even in pain, even on the brink of collapse, she had stayed. She needed help. Jack dropped to one knee, his voice low and steady. "You don't have much time, girl," he murmured. He could see the foal's hooves barely emerging. It was stuck. If he didn't act now, they would both die. He reached out slowly, waiting for the mare's reaction. And then she did something he never expected. She stopped fighting. For the first time, she let a human near her. She let Jack help. The mare's labored breathing filled the air, mixing with the distant rumble of thunder rolling over the valley. Jack moved fast. He had helped deliver foals before, but never like this, never with a wild Mustang, never with a mare that just minutes ago would have fought to the death rather than let a human near her. And yet here she was, trusting him. Jack wasn't about to let her down. He dropped to his knees in the dirt, ignoring the sharp wind whipping through his jacket. The foal's front hooves were out, but its head was stuck. Jack's stomach tightened. Breach. Birth, the worst-case scenario. If he didn't act right now, both the foal and the mare would die. The mare let out a shuddering groan, her body convulsing in effort. She was too weak to push anymore. Jack took a breath and then reached in. His rough, weathered hands wrapped around the foal's slick, fragile legs. He could feel its tiny heartbeat thrumming against his grip. The foal was alive, but not for long. He had seconds to do this right. A lightning bolt splits the sky, illuminating the valley in a sudden flash. Jack gritted his teeth, bracing his boots against the mud. He gave a gentle pull. Nothing. Another pull. Harder this time. Still nothing. The foal wasn't budging. The mare shivered violently, her entire body going stiff. She was giving up. Double quotes. "No, you don't," Jack muttered under his breath. He shifted his grip, twisting carefully, feeling for the foal's tiny muzzle. There. Jack angled his head downward, just like he had been taught all those years ago. Then he pulled hard. For a terrifying moment, nothing happened. Then the foal slid free. Jack fell back into the dirt, gasping for breath. The tiny creature lay motionless in his arms, too still, too quiet. Jack's heart pounded in his chest. "Come on, little one," he whispered, shaking its tiny body gently. Nothing. Panic surged in his chest. He rubbed the foal's ribs, urging it to breathe. "Come on," he repeated, his voice breaking. Nothing. Then a sharp, shallow gasp. The foal's tiny chest rose, then fell, then again and again. It was breathing. She should have taken her foal and vanished into the wilderness, but she didn't. She stayed. And then she did something that made Jack's breath catch in his throat. She nudged the foal toward him. Jack froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. Had he imagined it? Was she just too weak to move? But no, there it was again, a gentle nudge, barely noticeable but unmistakable. She was offering her baby to him, as if she knew, as if she understood. Jack swallowed hard. "I'm not going to hurt him," he whispered, slowly, so slowly, reaching out. His fingers brushed against the foal's tiny, damp coat. The little creature let out a soft, uncertain squeak. Jack's throat tightened. He had delivered foals before, had raised them, trained them, and seen them grow into strong, fearless animals. But never like this, never in the middle of a storm, never under the watchful gaze of a wild mare, never with a Mustang trusting him with her newborn. The mare let out a low, tired breath and lay her head down in the dirt. She was exhausted. Jack knew she needed time to recover, but the foal needed warmth. He looked around. The storm was getting closer. They couldn't stay out in the open like this. He made a decision. Carefully, he lifted the foal into his arms. It was light, barely anything at all. The little body trembled against his chest, its damp fur sticking to his jacket. Jack turned to the mare. "I'll bring him back," he said. She blinked slowly. Her dark eyes filled with something that made his chest ache. She believed him. She trusted him, and for Jack Reynolds, that meant everything. The first raindrops hit Jack's face as he stepped away from the mare, cradling the fragile foal against his chest. The storm was closing in fast. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and the once dry earth beneath his boots was turning soft with moisture. Jack had to move, but as he turned toward the barn, he heard a weak, uncertain shuffle behind him. He looked over his shoulder, and his breath caught. The mare was trying to stand. Her legs shook violently, her ribs heaving with effort. She was still too weak, barely able to hold herself up, but she was trying to follow him. Jack's stomach tightened. She wasn't supposed to do that. Wild Mustangs didn't follow humans. They ran, and they vanished into the wilderness. Yet here she was, refusing to let her foal be taken away, even by the man who saved him. Jack exhaled sharply. He had to get the foal to safety before the storm hit full force. But what about the mare? Could she even make it to the barn? Did she trust him enough to follow? Jack looked down at the foal in his arms. The tiny creature was barely breathing, its body still damp from birth. Its legs curled up against his chest. He didn't have time to hesitate. "Come on, girl," he murmured, stepping forward. He didn't look back, didn't check to see if she was moving. He just walked, praying she would follow. The rain pounded harder, turning the ground into a slick mess of mud and water. Jack pushed forward, his boots sinking into the earth. Then he heard its soft, unsteady hoof beats following him. Jack's throat tightened. She was coming. She was trusting him, step by painful step, following the man who had saved her baby. By the time they reached the barn, Jack was soaked through, his arms burning from carrying the foal. But they had made it. He set the tiny creature down on a bed of dry hay, covering it with a thick blanket. Then he turned just in time to see the mare stagger through the open barn doors. She was shaking, her legs barely holding her weight. But she didn't stop. She moved past Jack, ignoring him completely, and lowered herself beside her foal. Jack stood there, watching the two of them. For the first time in his entire life, he felt something deep in his chest, something rare, a connection, a moment of pure, unspoken understanding. The mare lifted her head just slightly, her dark eyes locking onto his. She didn't run, didn't flinch, and didn't try to escape. And in that moment, Jack knew this wild Mustang wasn't afraid of him anymore. The Rain hammered against the barn's roof, each drop echoing like a ticking clock in Jack's ears. The foal lay curled in the hay, its tiny chest rising and falling unevenly, to slow, to weak. Jack knew the signs the little one wasn't out of danger yet, and if he didn't act now, the foal might not make it through the night. The mare, Luna, lay close, her breath warm against her baby's damp coat. Her ears flicked toward Jack, watching his every move. Jack knelt beside the foal, his fingers brushing over its fragile frame. Cold to cold, a newborn needed warmth, a mother's milk, and time, but time wasn't on their side. Jack moved fast. He grabbed a thick wool blanket from the barn shelf, draping it over the foal's body. Then he rushed to the corner where an old wood-burning stove sat unused. It took minutes to get a fire going, minutes he wasn't sure the foal had. The flames flickered to life, casting a soft golden glow across the barn. Jack turned just in time to see Luna nudge the foal, urging it to move. "Come on, little one," Jack whispered. The foal let out a weak cry. Jack's heart stopped. He knew that sound: desperation, hunger, weakness. Jack glanced at Luna. She was exhausted, her body too depleted to nurse properly after the traumatic birth. Jack cursed under his breath. This foal needed nourishment now, and there was only one way to get it. He grabbed a clean bottle from the storage shelf. He had raised orphan foals before, and had saved the two small, two weak ones when their mothers couldn't. But it wasn't an orphan, this was a wild Mustang's baby, and Jack had no idea if Luna would let him anywhere near it. He approached slowly, holding out the bottle filled with warm mare's milk replacer. Luna's ears were pinned back. Jack froze. He had come too far to ruin this trust now. He dropped to his knees, his voice soft and steady. "I'm not taking your baby," he murmured. Luna watched him, her dark eyes flicking from him to the foal, then back again. Then came the moment that changed everything. She lifted her head, not in fear, not in aggression, but in acceptance. Jack slowly reached out, tilting the bottle toward the foal's lips. For a second, nothing happened. Then a tiny, trembling suckle, and then another. Jack let out a shaky breath. The foal was drinking. He was going to live, and for the first time that night, Jack truly believed it. The storm had passed, leaving behind the crisp scent of damp earth and a sky filled with soft morning light. Inside the barn, Jack barely moved. He sat on the ground, his back against a wooden post, the empty milk bottle still in his hands. He had fed every drop to the foal, and now the little one was stirring. Luna, the wild Mustang mother, lay beside her baby, her body finally at rest. She was still exhausted, her breath slow, but her dark eyes never left her foal. The tiny creature, now stronger than the night before, shifted slightly in the hay. Jack held his breath. Then the foal wobbled, its tiny legs twitched, struggling to push against the ground. Jack's fingers tightened around the bottle. "Come on, little one," he whispered. The foal tried again. Its knees buckled, and its body trembled, barely able to hold itself up. Luna let out a soft, encouraging nicker. Jack exhaled slowly. This was the moment, the first step. The foal let out a small, determined squeal. Then it pushed up one leg, then another. Jack leaned forward, barely breathing. For a moment, the foal stood, wobbly and unsteady. But standing, Jack felt something tighten in his chest. He had seen hundreds of foals take their first steps before, but never like this, never one that had fought this hard to survive. Luna stretched her neck forward, her muzzle gently nudging her baby's side. Jack stayed perfectly still. This was their moment. The foal, still shaking, took its first tiny, careful step toward its mother, then another, and another. Jack blinked hard. The little one was walking. He had made it, and somehow, against all odds. So had they all. Jack had been part of it. The barn door was still slightly open, allowing the morning light to spill across the hay-covered floor. Luna turned her head toward it. Jack saw it instantly, the instinct, the pull. She was wild, and now that her foal was strong enough, she would leave. Jack swallowed hard. He had known this was coming, and had prepared for it. But now, watching them stand together, watching what they had fought to survive, he wasn't ready, not yet. The morning light poured through the barn door, casting a golden glow over the scene. Jack stood motionless, watching as Luna took slow, deliberate steps toward the open doorway. Her foal, Hope, followed closely behind, his tiny legs still wobbly, but stronger than before. This was it. They were leaving, and Jack had no right to stop them. Luna paused just at the threshold. The world outside was vast, endless, the open range, the only home she had ever known. Jack felt his chest tighten. He had spent his whole life around horses, trained them, ridden them, and understood them, but was different. He had fought alongside them and had earned their trust not by force, not by breaking their spirit, but by simply being there, by listening, by helping. And now she was walking away. Jack swallowed hard. Maybe that was how it was meant to be. Maybe some things weren't meant to be kept. Maybe some bonds were never meant to last. Then Luna stopped right at the edge of the open door. She turned her head just slightly, her dark eyes locking onto his. Jack's breath hitched. For a long moment, neither of them moved. A silent conversation passed between them, one that words could never capture. Then Luna did something Jack never expected. She took a single step back, away from the wild, back, into the barn, and so did Hope. Jack's hands trembled at his sides. "You don't have to stay," he murmured. Luna blinked slowly. Then she walked toward him, not in fear, not in hesitation, but in acceptance. Jack exhaled a slow, shaky breath. He didn't own her. He never would. But she had made a choice, and for the first time in his life, Jack Reynolds understood what it meant to be chosen. Some people say that wild horses can never be tamed, that they don't trust, that they don't understand. But Luna knew. She knew who saved her. She knew who saved her baby. And in the end, she made her choice. Jack never tried to break her. He never put a rope around her neck. She was never locked behind gates. She was free, and yet she stayed. Not because she had to, not because she was forced, but because she belonged not to a barn, not to a ranch, but to him. Because sometimes the greatest bonds don't come from ownership. They come from trust.